Hey guys, it's Kelly here again and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to a TV show review. Now, this is the first one that I'm doing of this kind and I don't know if there'll be any more. I watched this TV show in February and because I wanted to review it properly, I decided to make a separate video on it and you'll see why in a second. I ended up mentioning it in my wrap-up for February, but it's so unique and different. I need to explain a bit more about the show and the episodes. Like I said, I watched this in February. It is called Electric Dreams and it consists of 10 episodes, each one a standalone. So basically what you're watching is a 40 to 15 minute kind of mini film or movie, and they're all kind of wrapped up nightly with an electric bow. The show is, I believe, on Amazon Video Production and I think it's from 2017. There are some fantastic actors that act in it and they each appear in different episodes, and if I'm not mistaken, Bryan Cranston is actually one of the producers or just producers of some of the episodes. So each episode is based on a short story by science fiction author Philip K. Dick, and each episode has its own story, its own idea, its own set of actors, its own filming place, its own setup, its own world. Everything is separate in each episode, and every episode is linked to a specific short story or novella or just work of fiction by author Philip Dick. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope you get motivated to actually see the show, because I think this is going to make it into my all-time favorites, not just of the year but of all time, and I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. So let's just get into it. The first episode is called The Hoodmaker. It is about a dystopian world where a small group of humans have developed telepathic abilities. They are telepaths and they are very despised by humans. They are considered dangerous. They are often criminalized and people keep calling them thieves, and they live in ghettos in very horrid conditions. So in this world, this episode follows our main characters, Agent Ross, who is a police officer who gets assigned to work with a thief named Honor. So they are supposed to investigate and find this criminal called the Hoodmaker, who distributes telepathy-proof hoods. They start, of course, developing a relationship. That's basically it. This episode is a little bit creepy. I did get hooked quite fast with this first episode. It's a little bit awkward just because the relationship that the two main characters develop is kind of very rushed, but it's only natural. It's based on a short story. It's such a short episode, but the idea was very great and I did enjoy this one. The second episode is called Impossible Planet. In a very faraway future, humanity has ventured out into space. Earth has been long forsaken and destroyed. There's just no Earth anymore. So we follow these two characters who work on a tourist-based spaceship or space station, and what they do is they are kind of tour guides for people who want to see different galaxies and different planets. They are approached by a very old Irma Gordon, who is 340 something years old, who is accompanied by a robot. So Irma is sick and she's dying. Her last wish is to see Earth and where her grandmother came from. What she doesn't know is that Earth was destroyed, and because she was rejected by different tourist companies, she ends up going to these guys and offering them a lot of money. Naturally, as humans do, they decide that the money's worth it and they're going to just take her to a planet that is similar to Earth, and they are going to lie to her, add some visual effects and make it seem like Earth. Now, as we go through this episode, our main guy, one of the tourist guys, starts feeling guilty. He starts developing this weird relationship with Irma, and this episode was weird. This was definitely, if I saw this first, I would be like, I'm not watching any more of this show. The ending was also weird. I did really love the ending. I will not say what it was, but I really loved the idea of having that ending. So this was, like I said, a weird episode. So I would recommend skipping it just because it wasn't quite that mind-blowing, but if you want to give it a chance, feel free to do so. This one was not my favorite. Still interesting, still kind of enjoyed it. Third episode is called The Commuter. This one was one of the weirder episodes. We follow Ed, who is a railway worker, and he sells tickets to passengers for trains. And he he has a tough life. He's kind of struggling because his family is falling apart. His son has a certain mental condition. He's in his teenhood, he's in the early stages, but it will render him potentially very dangerous in the future. So our main character, Ed, is struggling to find happiness in his life. He's consumed by the grayness and sadness and heaviness of his life and his family. So one day as he's working, this woman appears and she wants to buy a ticket to a town that just doesn't exist. So he ends up trying to convince her that there is no such thing as the town that she wants to go to, but as soon as he takes his eyes off of her, she disappears. So that happens a few days, one after the other. Each day she comes in, she wants to buy a ticket to this certain town, and they keep telling her that she cannot because it doesn't exist. And each day she just keeps trying again and again. So one day Ed decides to go and check out where the stop is. Does this town exist? And stuff like that. He boards this train and sees all these different people from the train get up in the middle of the way and just jump out of the door. So he realizes that they are kind of jumping to go to this town. What it ends up being is a town where I don't want to say time has stopped, but it definitely doesn't quite move forward, and all these broken people with their broken lives go there to escape their gray and heavy reality. This is kind of like a therapeutical town, but of course it's not real. So we end up exploring our main character's Ed's psyche and what his son means to him. So that is definitely one of the saddest and heavier episodes. I struggled a little bit just because it was so heavy, but I also loved it because it was a very weird one. The British humor was kind of weird. It's not my personal cup of tea, but either way, I love the concept and I love the idea, and I would recommend for people who like heavier subjects and who don't mind feeling a little bit sad and just finding truth in that sadness. I would definitely recommend this episode for people like that. The next episode is called Crazy Diamond, and honestly this was not my favorite. This is probably my least favorite of all of them. I personally didn't quite enjoy it. I like the ideas, but just the overall gist of it was not my favorite. The cast consists of famous actor Steve Buscemi. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I actually don't know how to pronounce his name. Anyway, Steve works at this factory that produces humanoids, and these humanoids are called Jacks and Jills. They each get their emotions and their intelligence from these QCs, which are quantum consciousnesses. And one day he is approached by this dying Jill who wants to extend her lifespan. So she convinces him to steal a few QCs, one for her and one so that she can sell them, give him a share, and he can start a new life with his wife Sally. Now, things naturally don't go as planned. It was an interesting concept. This one is a bit easier to spoil just because it didn't, honestly, not that much happened. Basically, we follow the whole execution. He steals them, what happens afterwards. So this one, interesting concept, not my favorite. Totally fine if you skip it. Episode number 5 is called Real Life, and this is my second favorite episode. This is the moment where I decided that this show was completely worth it. Basically, we follow Anna Paquin's character, Sarah, who is a policewoman living very, very far ahead in the future, in the times of flying cars and just very futuristic technology. She ends up living through a tragedy in her life. Her whole team ends up being massacred, and she keeps having nightmares. She keeps not being able to move past it and move on. So her girlfriend Katie buys her this device that is supposed to create a virtual reality based on her thoughts, her own thoughts, and let her escape into this virtual reality so that she can kind of let go of the things that bother her. So like I said, this reality, virtual reality, is based on Sarah's personal thoughts, her personal experiences, and it is kind of like a holiday for her. She goes into this virtual reality and she assumes the life of George, who is portrayed by Terrence Howard, whom I personally really, really love. So anyway, she assumes his life. He is a game developer who is actually living in the present, our present, and he's actually the one who developed this virtual reality technology. So the technology that Sarah uses is actually a very advanced version of George's virtual reality. We start following these two characters and trying to figure out if this is actually a virtual reality, if these two realities are real, or if one of them is fake. So I'm not gonna say more. Again, I don't want to spoil this, but this one was one of my absolute favorites. I would definitely recommend it for anyone who likes virtual realities, who likes the human psyche again, who likes to think and feel more. It's an emotional one. The ending, I'm gonna say the ending is not gonna be for everyone. I really loved it. It made so much sense for me, but again, it's not going to be for everyone, but the ideas are there, and I would definitely recommend this one. Episode number 6 is called Human Is, and it is the one where Bryan Cranston portrays one of our main characters. It follows the story of this mission director, Vera, who is trapped in a very loveless marriage. Her husband, who is portrayed by Bryan Cranston, is a military hero. He does not treat her well, to say the least, and he undermines her in every single possible way. They live in this human colony on an alien planet, and they need this alien material in order to process some kind of toxins that are on Earth and make it uninhabitable, something along those lines. So we follow her husband, Silas, who ends up going and trying to steal that material from the aliens. His whole team dies, but he ends up coming back with one of his teammates, and they are alive and well. Following Vera's perspective, Silas starts acting very strangely. He starts being very attentive. He starts being very nice and generous and completely different from what his previous version was. That's kind of all I'm going to say about this one. It was one that didn't have that mind-blowing of an idea, but it had very specific things that were very interesting to watch in terms of human interactions. This is one that I would definitely recommend. It was a good one and I really enjoyed watching it. Number 7 is called The Father Thing, and it is one of the cuter episodes. It's not creepy, which is strange because the other ones all have a certain amount of creep factor. This one follows this young boy whose parents are getting divorced. He really loves his dad. They go stargazing or something like that, and an alien invasion starts happening kind of under the radar, and his father gets possessed by an alien, and it has a little bit of a Stranger Things kind of vibe because we see everything from the perspective of this little boy and how his father changes and how he's the only one who sees these aliens, who sees what's going on, and he starts trying to find comrades and trying to battle this alien invasion. So this was one of the cuter and nicer episodes. I really loved this one and I would recommend it, even if it's something like a palate cleanser. It was definitely on the lighter side and I would recommend it. Episode number 8 is called Artifact, and it is my favorite episode. This is the one, if you're not gonna watch the other ones, this is the one that you need to watch, and I'll tell you why. Basically, in the future, humanity has been able to make everything automatic. So the factories are automatic, everything is automatic, and there are these huge factories that produce products over and over and over again, and they are just automatic, they don't stop. So humanity goes through some turmoil, they end up starting a war, killing half of the planet off, and they start living in these kind of communities and living amongst themselves and trying to deal with the ever-growing problem of having these factories constantly bombarding them with products and just having them send huge shipments of products over and over again when humanity doesn't need. But the whole factory is very secure, it's very automatic, and humans can't stop it. So we follow this main character, Emily, I think, or Alice? Was Alice the robot? I don't know. Oh, one of those, Emily. This main character who is very tech savvy, and she ends up finding a way to break into the factory and disabling the factory from the inside. I will not say a word more because this is one that you absolutely need to see, and I don't want to spoil it. If you like androids, automatics, and things like that, definitely watch this one. Episode number 9 is called Safe and Sound, and it follows this dystopian world where the United States have gone into this safety frenzy and everyone lives behind these giant walls. Of course, not everyone, just the rich people and rich kids live behind these giant walls, and they fear terrorism most of all, and everyone is being tracked. So each individual has this kind of Fitbit situation, a bracelet on their hand, and they are constantly being monitored. They are monitored where they go, what they do, who they interact with, what their physical conditions are, and everyone knows everything about everyone. So we follow Foster, who is a teenager and live with her mom in these bubbles that are situated beyond the walls where there's no such monitoring and there are no such terroristic threats. And she wants to go to high school beyond the wall where she is safe and sound, and her mother is kind of an ambassador between her bubble and the people within the walls. Foster starts going to school and she starts feeling very left out because people are treating her very differently because she doesn't have that Fitbit, and everyone is being brainwashed to think that she is a potential threat and a potential terrorist. So she decides to steal, in a way, a bracelet for herself. And from there, she makes a connection to this IT person who is responsible for her bracelet, and he starts giving her this information about different people. He starts kind of playing with her head. It's very interesting, and it shows a very real depiction of our society today, maybe just a little bit more in the future, because everyone right now is constantly being monitored. Our cell phones are constantly listening to us, our cameras are constantly working, and you don't need to be a genius or be very tech savvy to realize that and to know that the world is constantly retrieving information about you and your personal life, where you go, what you do, and who you interact with. So it's a very real depiction of our world today, and that's why I found this episode very interesting, and this was one of my top episodes. So I really loved this one. I definitely would recommend it if you want to see more, something more down to earth, something more real, and something that we are actually kind of dealing with today. It also shows how easily people can be manipulated and brainwashed, and how you should be always very critical about the information that you get, no matter where you get it from. The last episode was definitely a weird one. It's called Kill All Others. This episode is kind of nowadays. It shows a reality where digital advertising is absolutely everywhere. Everything is kind of automated. The cars are automated, the factories are automated, and we follow the life of this extremely regular human being who is named Filbert, and he is one of the very few people who actually still works hard labor and works in a factory. So Phil, or Filbert, one day hears this political candidate say kill all others over the news. So basically she's like, if you elect me as president, I will reduce sentences, I will do better at education, I will donate to the poor, and I will kill all others. So that's what she says, and he hears that and he can't believe that she said that. So he starts searching through the web, asking other people if anyone else heard that, or if it's just him and if he's mistaken. So nobody seems to have heard this, nobody's talking about this, and suddenly all these people start gathering into mosh pits and starting to yell, she's another, he's another, and they start harassing people, they start beating people up in the streets. There are posters everywhere that start saying kill all others, and Filbert can't understand who are these others and how do they know that these people are others and why they would do something like this to another human being. That is a very interesting concept. I probably get some hate for this, but I feel like this was very Trump related, just because it kind of puts this idea of hatred towards anyone who's different. It starts brainwashing people and making them think that there are these different categories and anyone who is different is bad. So that is something I feel like is very current at the moment. It is something that we deal with on a daily basis. That is why I found this episode extremely interesting, extremely real, and I loved this one. It made me think a lot. So I would definitely recommend this. That's it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. I hope that you will sit down and watch this show as well, and we can discuss it in the comments down below. If you have seen it, do let me know in the comment section. I would love to hear your opinions on the different episodes, which ones you liked, why, which ones you didn't like, and why. And if you decide to watch it based on this video, I would also love to hear that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!